really the only difference is Inland Empire was shot with DV, and it was a low-grade, bad DV. I started working with this Sony PD-150 for short experiments on my website, and I start falling in love with the ease of working with the digital. And then I started getting ideas that would later be part of Inland Empire. And although not the quality of film, I loved the way it looked and how it worked with the ideas. And you see exactly what you're going to get. And for the scenes, the long takes, the ability to talk and be with the actors and go deeper and deeper without stopping, then maybe you can catch a magic that you couldn't ever catch before.
The sycamore trees, in the dark trees that blow, baby, in the dark trees that blow. And I see you, and you see me.
And welcome to Twin Peaks Unwrapped. I'm your host, Ben Durant, and beside me is
Bryon Kazaska.
Hi, Bryon.
Hey, Ben. How are you?
Doing well. I think I'm ready to talk about rabbits.
So before we get into rabbits, Ben, I want to tell everybody we are now kicking off the David Lynch short film series. It's like a video club. Please stop. If you haven't watched Rabbits, hit pause, go watch Rabbits, come back and hit play.
And you can find them on YouTube.
Yes, they're all on YouTube.
The lime green box, David Lynch's collection, has them too. We can talk more about that. It's a little different how he structured it.
Yeah.
But it's there. It's people can find it on YouTube.
So just so everybody knows, we have Rabbits. We're going to do Dunland, the Alphabet, the Grandmother. So get on that. Watch those. They're very good and very interesting and worth talking about. And that way you're in the know for the next couple weeks. This is what we're going to be doing. Which
sounds good.
It's sometimes we don't know what we're doing week to week, so this is kind of cool.
It's kind of cool. It is kind of nice. We very rarely tell you what's going to happen next week. A lot of times it's because we set up these interviews and we're really nervous about them going through and making sure that happen. Because there's been times where we've set up an interview and it doesn't happen. It's like, oh, we wouldn't want to say we're going to have Shirley Fenn on, and then
it never happens.
It never happens. But so
they tell us to take it down.
Take it. So you know what we're going to be doing for the next few weeks.
Very cool. It's going to lead us up until the new year. So watch those. This is like the video club series for Twin Peaks Unwrapped. And the first one is Rabbits, which I've only seen in the movie
Inland Empire.
Yeah. So this is my first time watching it out of that movie.
I find this very fascinating because, this was originally on davidlynch.com back in the day, 2002. I was a subscriber. You had to pay about $10 a month, and you get everything that David Lynch would put out. And he would put out these episodes of Rabbits.
Yeah.
So my first experience of Rabbits is through davidlynch.com. And when I got to Inland Empire, it's like, this isn't right. I saw it through a lens of what he was doing on the website. And it felt very odd to have these characters now in another story.
Question, though. because I watched that movie such a long time ago.
Yes.
Was the entire 40 minutes in that?
Oh
movie?
no, not definitely. It was
we
a very
missed
small.
lot.
It was a very small piece, and if I
Yeah.
remember right, it was like the girl crying at the TV, where it would show a little snippets of
Yes.
rabbits and stuff.
Yep.
And there was like one thing that wasn't in the episodes from the website, where I think the rabbit appeared in another room or something. It like faded in and faded out. I don't know what that was about, but for the most part, it was just a few clips on the TV set that the girl was watching.
like Imitation of Love.
Yes, right. So I don't know why I should be so upset by that, but to me it was like, this is a different world. Like this, the Inland Empire had its own world and its own thing, and Rabbit's web series had its own thing.
And David Lynch always incorporates other works into
True.
his newest work.
Right.
We saw
And
that
you
in
can-
season 3.
Oh yeah, you can definitely see a lot of his other work get into his new work. I mean, he does.
Yeah,
that.
yeah. So maybe he was just like, hey, this girl would be watching rabbits like a cartoon or something. A very demonic
And when you think
cartoon.
about it, Inland Empire had like, was it a record player? There was a lot of different mediums they were using early on at the beginning of the movie, if I
Yes,
remember
there
right.
was a
There was a
record.
radio, or it was a radio
Yep.
show, and then we get a TV, and then there's of course the making of a film. So it does make sense that they would have all these different things happening in the film. But I don't know. I was still kind of like, no, Rabbits is his own show.
And what a show it is.
Hi, it's Matt from 25 Years Later. I'm here to share a piece I wrote for the site about David Lynch's Rabbits. It starts with his own tagline for the short films. In a nameless city, deluged by a continuous rain, 3 rabbits live with a fearful mystery. Rabbits is a dark and mysterious series of short films by David Lynch, featuring 3 performers wearing rabbit costumes, delivering disjointed dialogue punctuated by lengthy periods of silence. As you can probably tell, this is definitely at the experimental or art house end of the entertainment spectrum, and probably not an easy watch for many viewers. The fact that this series has been used in a psychology study to induce a state of existential crisis speaks volumes. But for those who stick with it, these mini-movies serve up a perfect Lynchian experience full of dread, mystery, supernatural intrusions, fear, and a dreamlike atmosphere like nothing else you've ever seen. The fact that Lynch is able to create such an impact in such an abstract and deconstructed way says a lot about his skill as a filmmaker and a storyteller. In typically deadpan fashion, when interviewed, Lynch described the work as a 9-episode sitcom, a description that completely fails to capture the unnerving, powerful experience that is Rabbits. The videos were originally released in 2002 to subscribers of the now defunct DavidLynch.com. They were immortalised on DVD as part of the 10-disc Lime Green set, which now changes hands on Amazon for crazy money. And scenes from the series were reshot and incorporated into Inland Empire. If your interest is piqued by this article, you may also find the entire series available to watch on more than one popular video streaming platform, YouTube. The first thing that strikes the viewer is the set. A single room, captured with a single fixed camera, much like a film of a play or a television sitcom. The entire world in which this story is told comprises a small apartment living room, with a couch and 2 doors, one to the hallway outside the apartment and another to, presumably, a kitchen. Into this room come 3 rabbits. 2 are female, one who sits on a sofa, Jane, played by Laura Harring, the other placed upstage, often at an ironing board, Susie, played by Naomi Watts. The 3rd rabbit is Jack, played by Scott Coffey, who enters and exits through the apartment's front door and generally sits alongside Jane on the couch. The rabbits speak and move slowly, with prolonged pauses punctuating the action. They deliver dialogue in deadpan voices without much expression or inflection, and their conversations do not flow. It feels like the lines, taken as a whole, might tell a coherent story, but they're delivered in an apparently random order, creating a bewildering and disorientating effect, not unlike the cut-up experiments of the surrealists and authors such as William Burroughs. Adding to the strange impact of the deconstructed dialogue is a laugh track, which punctuates the disjointed conversation at apparently arbitrary moments. The unseen audience also whoops and cheers for lengthy periods when actors enter the stage, as though we're watching an episode of Cheers filmed in front of a live studio crowd, only it's super weird and full of rabbits. The action is, per the description above, extremely stylised. It's the opposite of Stanislavskian naturalism. Everything about Rabbits seems designed to prevent the audience becoming comfortable or losing themselves in the fiction on screen. These techniques are reminiscent of Brechtian alienation in theatre, disrupting the illusion and distancing the audience. And yet, perhaps surprisingly, this deconstructed experience, with its lack of exposition or discernible plot, still conveys a mood and a mystery that draws the viewer into a compelling viewing experience. Accompanying the stilted action is an eerie soundtrack punctuated by percussive booms, which seem to momentarily shift the camera out of focus. A score of synthetic strings, written and performed by Angelo Badalamenti, shimmers and pulses under the dialogue, building an air of unease. Distant foghorns and lashing rain effects drift across the music, adding to the intense atmosphere. Despite the abstract nature of the script, there are recurring themes within the dialogue and a strange poetry to many of the lines, especially in the occasional monologues delivered by the characters. Times and dates, along with confusion about the time, are mentioned again and again, often followed by audience laughter, as though the very concept of marking time is a joke. There are recurring references to Jack Rabbit keeping a secret. A knocking is heard from the hallway on several occasions, and at one point a telephone call is received. Twice during the series, a supernatural entity called Red Rabbit appears in the apartment and speaks in a strange, incomprehensible tongue. All of this manages to create a coherent Lynchian tone and stops the series descending into complete impressionistic confusion. But for all the laugh track and set stylings, this is far from your average sitcom, no matter what Lynch says. In fact, if it's reminiscent of anything else, in my opinion, it's the ancient Japanese tradition of no theatre. Like Rabbits, no theatre is minimalist, slowly paced, and staged so that small actions take on great significance. The performers wear masks and thick costumes that de-emphasise the actor's presence. In no theatre, little effort is made to create an illusion of reality or to preserve a suspension of disbelief. Instead, no performances are extremely stylised, and stagehands are visible on stage throughout. Because it's a form of theatre comfortable with the audience knowing that art is being created before their eyes, it really has no interest in creating a convincing, illusory reality. All of this is also true of Rabbits. Another important concept in no theatre, and in fact all traditional Japanese art forms, is ma, the profound application of space or stillness. In painting, this means conscious use of empty canvas. In No, and in Rabbits, this technique manifests in moments of unnatural stillness, in which the actors hold poses and maintain silence, allowing an immense presence of meaning and feeling to grow and flourish in the vacuum they create. And this empty space is where the power of Rabbits is generated, in between the words, in between the actions, in the absence of a coherent plot. The unnatural, uncanny presentation style creates a creeping, growing dread that becomes heavier and more intense as it's given more space to breathe. On paper, Rabbits might seem like a silly or comedic concept, as the use of a laugh track might suggest. But the actual experience of viewing these 9 episodes is to be unsettled, challenged, and occasionally frightened by a form of pure atmosphere with no context. I wasn't kidding when I said the series had been used by scientists to invoke a state of existential dread in a study. This really happened, and when you watch these strange videos, you can see why they chose this work. Rabbits won't be for everyone. It's unrepentantly arty and challenging. It's deliberately difficult. It's a puzzle without a solution. But none of this stops it being one of the most powerful viewing experiences you will ever have. The imagery and presentation manage to bypass the intellect and work directly on our emotions, manipulating us to feel rather than to think. This is a visceral rather than cerebral experience. It's like mainlining Lynch, straight, no chaser. So brace yourself, draw a deep breath, and get ready to plunge headlong down the rabbit hole.
Thank you, Matt Colt. Go read his articles and other great articles at 25yearslatersite.com.
I am going to find out one day.
Weird, because when you watch this, is it stop motion or are these people in act? Or
No, these people are so
in rabbit suits.
yes, they're in rabbit suits. So David Lynch built a set in his garden in his back of his house. Like it was just a little space.
Wow.
And the actors who did the voices also dressed up. And I guess they would do it at night because he liked the mood and the lighting.
Mm-hmm.
But the neighbors would all say, "Oh, they're making too much noise," and he would get in trouble because he was doing this at nighttime, filming outside.
You know, the genius of Lynch is you watch this and am I watching people in costumes? Am I watching a stop motion? What am I watching? And
Right.
the way it's framed, it makes it look like you're watching a diagram.
Yes, you're right. And I mean,
A diorama.
I know
a
what you meant.
diorama,
Yeah.
yeah. And if I feel like you're watching a diorama
Right.
of these humanoid rabbit people,
Yes.
you were just transported into a different world because my mind is like, I don't know, how did he do this?
Yes.
Were there any calls?
Most of the time, it's framed where the camera doesn't move. It's basically framed in this living room space.
Up looking down.
Right. It's almost as though it's like from the viewpoint of me sitting on my couch looking down at the TV set.
Yeah.
I think the camera doesn't move
At all.
There's
No.
no
Yeah.
zooming. There are times where we cut to certain things throughout the series, but for the most part, it's really just this wide shot where you can see the living room, a door. There's a back area where sometimes a character will iron
Yeah.
and stuff. But basically, you're just looking at this living room.
Yeah, and there's a window that will show there's like a thunderstorm or it's raining or there's a train passing by.
I don't even remember the window, but
Yeah, I mean, it gives you an idea that there's
Yeah.
an outside world.
and they do talk about there's an outside world, but you're almost led to believe that these are the only 3 characters in the world just because that's all you see. But I mean, they do talk about that. Yeah.
Yes. The most interesting part, there's a laugh track.
There have been no calls today.
So you kind of feel like you're watching a sitcom. Lynch was like, well, this is something that's normal. When you're watching something like this, there's always a laugh track. Even when it's not funny, people are laughing. And it was interesting. Do you know why he did that? Was there any insight into the laugh track?
I don't have any insight into that. It does feel I don't know why I keep thinking of like the Honeymooners, or I keep thinking of like old school comedy where a character, or even maybe Dick Van Dyke, or I'm thinking like a character would open the door and then all of a sudden people,
They hoot and
the Fonz from Happy Days.
They hooting and hollering.
Yes, and it's interesting. The character, the bunnies, the rabbits, they stop and they wait for the audience to stop laughing and applauding and stuff like that. But they keep it serious the whole time. So I mean, I think there's irony in that, and that you have these laughter and audience that thinks that it's really funny, and they're talking very seriously and like. It is 11:15 right now.
Yep.
So I don't know. I feel like that's Lynch's dark humor. He finds humor in violence, or he finds humor where there isn't usually humor.
And the laugh track brings humor into this.
Yeah, I guess so.
And it would be like your theory about sitting on a couch, like watching a TV show.
Yes.
You know, that laugh track makes it seem surreal.
Right.
You know?
But it's very eerie. I mean, there's a mystery in the way that you don't always know what's going on with these characters. I always feel like I'm in the middle of a conversation. Like something's been going on, and I missed what was happening here. And it doesn't matter where you are in the episode. You feel like there's something I'm missing here. There's some.
Well, we'll go into dialogue because some of the first words said are,
I have a secret.
now this is typical Lynch. I have a secret. I have a dream. I had a dream. I'm in a dream.
Right, so that's Jack Rabbit there. He's saying he has a secret, and he's always like the businessman who opens the door, and that's where they laugh, and then he comes in and he has something to say. Right, so I have a secret, and that's so typical Lynch.
It is.
He's always like, there's a woman with a secret, and there's like it's,
I'm building a mystery.
Yeah, you have Laura Palmer.
She's very secret.
And there's a knocking at the door. He answers it. He walks out. He comes back in. And one thing I noticed, to me, the conversations didn't seem to be in sync.
Yes.
Each character is talking in their own language about a certain subject, but out of sync with each other.
It must be after 7 p.m.
I have heard those things being said before.
I will bet you are both wondering.
It is still raining.
Does that make any sense?
I agree with you. I think like episode 6, there's a whole thing about like who's on the phone. Mm-hmm. Nobody had the phone. We never saw anything. And then later down, all of a sudden the phone rings and they answer it. But it's almost like they're out of sync. The person who said who was on the phone is from the future because they already know that the phone is going to ring and then they want to know who it is. So yeah, it's really bizarre that it does feel like they're out of sync. They're almost all having different conversations too because like one person's saying this and you think that person would be responding to it, but then they have their own thing to say. And then the third person has their own thing to say. And it's like, how is this all connected? But, you know, I haven't said this yet, but this is my favorite short of David Lynch's on his site. So, you know, he had Dumbland and he did a lot of other, like, quirky, silly little projects. But Rabbits is my favorite because there is this mystery. And it's so funny that Twin Peaks is that way, too, the new series. I feel like if I could just rewatch this enough times, maybe I could understand. Like, even rewatching it now, it's kind of like if I could just look at all the dialogue and maybe there's a link between episode 3 and episode 5. And
I think there is. I think you're onto something. And I'll tell you my little tiny theory about it at the very end.
When it happens, you will know it.
And then the room goes red. This is where it gets really creepy. You hear sounds to me what sounds demonic, like demons. And someone's talking backwards.
Well, on the left-hand corner, there is a red bunny talking.
Is that what it is? It reminded me a little bit of when Cooper Dougie saw the red room above the jackpots.
Yeah.
That's what it kind of reminded me of.
Interesting.
And it was like demonic. It was kind of like,
yes.
Where is this going? What is going on?
Devil Bunny or something, right?
Yeah, and it's like talking backwards. You know what it was saying? Because I couldn't make it out.
I couldn't make it out either.
It sounded backwards.
I don't know if it was backwards or it was just like, rah, 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 rah.
Do you think that was David Lynch doing that voice?
Most likely, yes.
Because there was no credited person.
Yes, I would say it was probably
David Lynch. And then the wife comes out with candles in the air during all this. So it's like a seance. I thought they were a family, but they're not family. I think they're just 3 random people.
You think so?
Yeah, and I think this one rabbit, I mean, it's weird. She leaves the room. She comes back with candles above
I believe it's Susie,
her head, and this demonic ritual happens where this demon's talking to them.
What's interesting is you have this, I feel like this day-to-day, just your typical lifestyle of coming home, going to work, and then all of a sudden the room changes red, and you have this voice, and...
What happens again later on.
Right. I think it might be the last episode there, I think.
So, but the first time I'm like, this is bizarre. Is this going to go into anything? So then it kind of reminds me, it goes into this Eraserhead territory, like the woman, the radiator. This rabbit comes out, she's wearing pink, and she starts to sing. And there's an image of a match, which looks like to me it's like a matchstick on fire above the doorway.
Yes.
That's what reminds me of Mr. Jackpot's season 3, the red room, because it had that burnt look, like it was on fire around it. That's what this match, and this match looks like it's superimposed and it's coming through.
Right.
The wall, and this woman's singing.
Each character, Susie, Jane, and Jack, will each have an episode of just them. There won't be any other characters but just them, and they'll have almost like poetry. And it's funny that the words they use are very similar. It's a little different. But
An old warm rug. A dog crawls. Oh. Something's wrong.
An old, warm rug. A dog crawls. Oh. Something's wrong.
I guess I'll go into my little theory about this. You reminded me. I kind of believe, this is going to be weird, Ben, so bear with me. I don't know.
Okay.
This is going to be rough. I kind of have a feeling this is sort of a purgatory for these rabbits. I think each rabbit has died by a hunter.
Is that your backstory? This is their backstory. All right.
Each person you're right, they talk about being dragged by a dog, seeing imagery from the POV of the rabbit. The rabbit is seeing the foot repeatedly drag it. The rabbit seeing their perspective of the dog.
They talk about old warm rug, a
Yes.
dog. It was dog crawls. Yeah, right.
The dog's playing with it.
I think they use electricity a couple times. Barbed wire, sharp, tearing open, red.
That's how they could have been killed. Barbed wire. The rabbit.
I never
could have
saw
been-
this, but I could totally see this now.
This is like this in between world for these animals to trying to figure out what happened to themselves. And I think they're out of sync. I think the three of them are coming in and out of this world at different times. I think what I got out of it was the phone call was sort of like they're waiting for a phone call to allow them to move on. And
Are you going down the lost route?
yeah, maybe. But I kind of feel like the reason we're hearing someone saying who's on the phone could have been because a previous phone call, which we didn't see, or there's no right here, right now. They're all in there at this different time. I kind of think
like
about
that.
it like if you were to make them all transparent, you
Yes.
would see these different people just in and out, all at different times. But they would, if they're just there, they're there. And I think they're out of sync because they've all come into this world at different times.
Yeah,
and they're all
it's
leaving.
interesting to say that because in the monologues, that each one of them has an episode where they do their monologues. At the end, they disappear. So
yes.
it's not like they don't walk out the door or they don't go back to the back area.
Yes.
They just
Disappear.
They disappear.
So they get to move on and
maybe the realization of what happened to them.
yeah, their traumatic
And
experience.
then you then realize it's like, are these 8 episodes out of sync? Are they not in the right order? And
That's
stuff?
a good point.
Right.
Right? I don't
We
know.
have no way of knowing for sure. But
I guess you'd have to watch them all in different orders to figure out like a Rubik's Cube.
episode 3, which would be Jane's monologue,
Yeah.
actually it was played by Rebecca Del Rio, John Neff. And Rebecca had a small part. I think she was in episode 3 of Rabbit.
Yeah, she was one of the rabbits. The first 2 were Laura Herring and Naomi Watts, and then Scott Coffey was Jack Rabbit, and then Laura had some other commitments and couldn't continue, so David called Rebecca, and she got into the rabbit suit, and she was a rabbit.
It's in there because she's singing, and
Yes.
she has the voice. And the other characters, they don't sing, but they hum and stuff. They do
It's that reminded me of like slam poetry. That's sort of like a beatnik poet, not slam poetry, but beatnik poetry.
Yeah. So I had the script of Rabbits. You can find it. You probably could just Google Rabbits script, and I would watch it, and I would also look at the script while I was watching, just to really take it all in. Because I've already seen Rabbits, and I thought it would be interesting to read it as I'm watching it. And one of the things I'm saying, I'm looking at this dialogue, it's like, what? This is going to be 5-7 minutes long, and there's not that much dialogue. I mean, a normal person, you read that, it's like, oh, they should be able to read that all in 1 minute. But
This is Lynch we're talking about here.
Lynch, and it's the pace of nothing's happening, or you have them humming.
Yeah.
and it stretches this dialogue for 7 minutes. Or 5. And so I thought that was fascinating. But it's just it's that mood, and you have Angelo Badalamenti doing the soundtrack for this, which is wonderful to have. It almost sounds like there's a train, or there's some kind of there's a mood there.
The train sound reminded me of hotels.
Yes. I'm glad you brought up hotel room.
Hotel room.
Because here we are. We're now stuck in a living room again. It's just like hotel room, where it's one space. We never see any other spaces.
And that one episode with the train.
Yes.
You could always hear the train pass.
Right.
It's the same sound.
Yes,
I
it
swear to
is.
God, it's
I
the
think
same.
you're right. I like that.
Yeah. It's really cool. Yet again, Lynch recycling or reusing things for other projects, which is just really cool.
You can get all this on the lime green box set of Lynch's there, and it's on the mystery DVD is Rabbits. But it's funny how they split it up, where it was originally 8 episodes. He split it up into 2 episodes, and then there's really 2 more, which is Scott and Naomi, which is really those monologues Susie and Jack did. They didn't do Jane's monologue. That's the only episode that's missing on the lime green box, is her monologue.
Interesting.
So it's there. It's the only thing. I guess you have to still YouTube if you want to see.
Only David Lynch to make it. Oh, you have to work for your money here. You have to work to watch this stuff. So to go back to my theory, some of the dialogue, the dog cross, the socks drip, disease, hot electricity, barbed wire, tearing open, wet dog, and they say cold, fades away, to cheering, fade to black, next episode.
Legs high, ceiling drip. Cold.
Legs high. Cold.
They were hunted, they were killed. And also, next week we do Dumbland, and there's a character who likes to kill things, and I'm wondering if it's connected, and it's that guy who's killing
that
these
dumb
rabbits.
guy that's like, I like to kill things.
Yeah. You know, like, it's interesting because that guy's just like, I like to cut their heads off, and he's just like a total weirdo.
So, you know, he was doing these things around the same time, right? So
Yeah.
he could be like,
I'm connecting universes here.
And, yeah.
And rabbits.
Oh.
So I thought they were a family. It's like in my notes, I wrote mother and daughter. I wrote mother and daughter in room. A voice of a man saying, not much longer now. Where did she go last night? Where's Jack? Near the harbor when it happened, it was raining, and then Jack comes home with the cheering again.
Yes.
You know what? At one point I was like, this is like Married with Children. Al Bundy came home.
Right. It's always these famous characters, the Fonz, or
Yes.
I mean, you have all these different characters. It's always like the star of the show, or even the Urkel. What Urkel from Family Matters?
Yes,
Like that.
very
like you always
popular.
had the main character, the big.
And they cheer and they come to the door.
yeah.
Kramer.
Right, Kramer.
Yeah,
Right.
that kind of stuff doesn't happen much anymore.
No.
There's not a lot of shows with
Right.
live
I think
audiences anymore.
No, not a lot.
Which is good.
There's some, but I think we've evolved. We understand that we don't need somebody to applause or to cheer for us to enjoy it. And now we can enjoy what we like and what we want.
Yeah, we don't need someone to tell us to laugh at every moment.
I know. I've always liked like The Office, or there's so many good shows like that doesn't need to have a laugh track. That
I've watched
Arrested Development.
Yeah, exactly. And I've watched Seinfeld numerous times. I love Seinfeld.
One of the best comedies out there.
Yeah, I kind of forget. I tune out the laugh track. I kind of forget it's there.
Yeah.
Because I think I've watched it so much. But sometimes you do watch a show and you know it's there, and it becomes annoying. You're kind of like, what? You know what's interesting? Did you know MASH had a laugh track?
No, I don't remember that. It's so funny. You wouldn't think that there was. There was comedy, but at the same time, it was serious things as well.
In the beginning, MASH had a laugh track. Oh my
gosh!
And it was god awful, and they got rid of it.
Yeah.
They actually stopped with the laugh track, but there are episodes that had a laugh track.
I'll have to Google that.
And it's it's a comedy, but it's a serious, a dramedy. It was weird, but and it was canned, obviously, because they weren't filmed in a live studio audience.
No,
they were
they weren't.
like on a soundstage somewhere.
Instead of a 3 camera, they were probably using 1 camera to shoot everything.
Yeah. Such an odd show. A little trivia for you.
Thank you.
But they did get rid of it. They did get rid of it. By the end of the show, they didn't have the laugh track anymore. I've come to realization in my notes that I've realized that these rabbits are giving us information when they give us this little slam poetry sing-alongs.
Yes.
That it's their point of view of being attacked by a dog or a hunter.
Electricity.
Barbed wire. Sharp. Tearing open red and wiggling.
It's creepy.
Lynch is just like writing things that he's thinking about, like
Electricity.
black dog runs at night.
Yes.
Like it's kind of like
I
just,
thought about that too.
Yeah, just things that he thinks about.
That song
darkness.
would match this.
Yes, it would.
You could kind of relate this to Twin Peaks. You could relate the rabbit, an innocent animal, maybe a majestic creature that is so fragile that a dog or a human could take its life so easily.
And it's some kind of trauma they've experienced.
And they're kind of like, this animal has to live with figuring out. And like Laura Palmer, you have an innocence, a young girl who is brutally murdered and have horrible things done to her by her family, and then she's living in this limbo of the red room and doesn't know what to go, and she's waiting for someone to allow her to go somewhere. And we kind of
Or she might be trying to find it on her own.
on her own. And Firewalk with Me, you kind of see that with the angel.
Yeah.
That gives her permission. Well, maybe not permission, but guides her somewhere.
Yes.
To heaven or whatever. And I kind of see it's like a running theme.
Yeah, definitely.
yeah.
And we can even see that way back in Eraserhead with in heaven everything is fine.
Yes.
I mean, we have that lady in the radiator brings Henry to heaven, it seems like, and everything she brings him onto the stage. So I mean, right back to his first feature film, he basically has a character that he is bringing to another place.
And it's set up like a stage with a red curtain.
Yes, we don't know what color. It's black and white, but we assume it's red. Yeah.
And You're right. I forget black and white. But yeah, I mean, life is a stage, and
right.
David
And how
Lynch
often will
loves
we
that.
use that again? I mean, we'll have Blue Velvet with the curtain, and we'll have
Mulholland
Drive, and Lost Highway has a curtain, and that becomes a theme. And it always does feel like partly that you're performing, that you're on a stage, but also that you're in this other world, and that you're
Yeah. So, I mean, definitely themes from Rabbits have spilled over.
And so in Jan's monologue, I mean, she ends with near the end about a mirror, smear of blood, eye opens darkness. So it's fascinating. I mean, it's these imageries that I think about Twin Peaks and that you see in so many other of Lynch's works.
The eye opens darkness, sort of like the white of the eye with the horse.
The woodsman says something about the
white of the eye.
Right.
Yes.
When he's talking about his poem there.
Yep.
We're now on episode 8.
Yeah, and the match is back.
All of these elements we were using throughout all this series is kind of coming back for one last time here.
Yep.
So you have the match, the red demon.
Jack opens the door.
It's funny, but before that, Susie usually is ironing and there's no iron board, but she's just standing in the background there.
Yeah, it's weird because she's getting ready to do the seance.
Yeah,
she's got.
She has no time for ironing.
Yeah.
It's past midnight.
Jack comes back in. There's all cheering.
All day.
There is something here.
It happened like that earlier.
Who could have known?
And then the room goes red, where there's a white light, and then she leaves. She comes back out with the candles, and then the demon starts talking backwards or whatever, this demonic voice. Yes. And it's weird. I can decipher this whole hunters and maybe this is like this purgatory room or this waiting room, but I don't know what the demon thing really fits in.
One of these days, I still want to spend more time on this, but I think about our poem for Twin Peaks, Fire Walk With Me. You know, it's not one chant, it's one chant, as though, to me, it's like a ritual, one chant out between two worlds, Fire Walk With Me.
Ooh, and there's a fire with the match, and they're chanting.
Yes.
And then they do their song and they fade away.
Right. It's almost like
wow.
they're opening...
They're opening a gateway so they can leave?
Maybe.
Oh, I like that.
I like that, yeah.
Are we just figuring this out? I think
we are. We're figuring this out as we're talking about it.
Deciphering Rabbits.
And one of the things that happens right at the end is there's a scream at the end of this. It reminds me of the scream from
Season 3.
Season 3, Laura Palmer screaming at the house. It's almost like maybe it's a scream of realization of what is happening around them.
Yes, I like that. I do.
It was the man in the green coat.
It's probably maybe they're talking about the hunter.
I mean, you're the one that came up with this, and it makes a lot of sense now. I never thought about that, but I buy that. I buy that there was a hunter chasing after the rabbits, and the dogs got him.
Yeah, and he killed them and dismembered them, but it's like it's presented to you in a safe fashion that you easily digest because there's a laugh track.
Right, yes. It's so true, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you need some sugar with your medicine, maybe to deal with this pain and this mysterious circumstances they're in. Maybe it's a little easier when there's laughing and applause. Yes.
Yeah, like can you imagine Twin Peaks with a laugh track?
Fellas, don't drink that coffee. You'd never guess. There was a fish in the percolator.
No.
At the same time, I think sometimes hunters kind of think that it's about entertainment for killing. You know what I mean? Like to them, it's like they take joy after going after animals and.
Yeah. Or like, I kind of look at this, the way they're describing everything, it's almost like a sadistic thing, like this. Maybe not a hunter per se, but someone who's just letting their dog destroy little animals just for fun. And maybe it's not even the purpose of hunting to eat. It's the purpose of just the thrill and letting their dog go after things,
right.
And this is why I kind of connect it with Dumbland. It's that weird guy in Dumbland, which you all hear next week. So, yeah, rabbits, wild.
How do you feel about this now that you have 8 episodes compared to that little snippet from Inland Empire.
I like this better.
Yeah.
I like to watch them all together, and obviously there was more to it.
I mean, I loved from day one when I saw it. It's just this mystery, and it is strange to have these upright rabbits living this life. It's almost like a dollhouse too. It's just
like a dollhouse.
I mean, I'm sure David Lynch made all that furniture, and I mean, he built that whole set, and it really was just like a box in his backyard in his garden there that he.
I would love to hear the demonic things happening in real time, and the neighbors going, "What is going on over there?"
David Lynch has got his megaphone. All right, Naomi, do it again. Shut up!
I'm trying to sleep. And maybe,
we're making a film here.
This is very serious business. We have rabbits in purgatory.
It took a while. I think it took a long time for them to work on too. Where it was more when they had time in between in their schedules.
Was it a pet project?
It was a pet project.
Pun intended.
DavidLynch.com. Yes, but it's great. I mean, this is another cool project that he worked on, and it's fun. I love that it was available at DavidLynch.com, where this is something that David Lynch thought of, and he just made it, and then he shared it with the community. And I wish he could do that still today. I wish he would. I mean, he does it. He does it through Twin Peaks. He does it through Showtime, and maybe we'll be lucky. And
maybe in 2018 he'll just do a couple small things before season 4.
Right. Sounds good to me.
So, Ben, any other factoids or anything?
No, I think we hit it all.
We hit it all?
Yeah, I think so. I think I shared everything I could think. I'm sure we'll stop recording and I'll be like, oh, but there was this one other thing.
You have your magical mic.
Sure, my magic mic, right? Magic mic.
Magic mic.
So, Bryon, I thought about this thing.
A month later.
Bryon, could you record a little bit of laughing? I need some room tone here.
Oh, man. Good stuff. So, Ben, with that being said, if you have a favorite David Lynch short you'd like to tell us your theories on rabbits, you can email us at twinpeaksunwrapped@gmail.com. Also, you can find us on Twitter,
Twin Peaks Unwrapped.
We're on Facebook, Twin Peaks Unwrapped. We're on iTunes. Leave us that 4-star review. Leave us that nice little comment. And also, we're on Stitcher and Google Play.
Awesome. So we're out every week. And I can't wait till next week when we cover Dumbland.
Just so everybody knows, I'll say it one more time. We have Dumbland, the Alphabet, the Grandmother. So watch those all. Also, before we go, TeePublic. I dusted off a box. I found all the old logos. I found some new stuff, some old stuff. Go to our TeePublic Twin Peaks Unwrapped page. The link is in our show notes. Check it out. You can buy a hoodie. You can buy a shirt. You can buy
stickers.
A coffee mug.
Yeah. I know somebody recently I saw bought a whole bunch of stickers, which I thought was so cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Put them everywhere.
Right. And it's great. I mean, I'm sure there's people out there who would love it for Christmas.
Yeah, it makes a great Christmas present. There's a bunch of sales going on right now. Hop on, because I don't know how long. Once we run out of we got the Dougie back up there. We got Over the Top with Mr. C's back up there. Once it's gone, it's gone. It only held a certain amount of product.
Yeah,
so
that's right.
We got to do our best. And it does support us.
I don't know if I buy this.
Believe me, Ben. Believe me when I say it. Buying something from TeePublic supports us and keeps the lights on. It allows us to keep the show going every year and to keep the old shows up so everybody can enjoy them.
Yeah, thank you so much for everybody who's already been supporting us. We really do appreciate it.
And with that being said, Ben, I think next week, your homework, everybody, go watch Dumbland. It's on YouTube. It's on other ways. You can find it. Go check it out. We'll be covering Dumbland next week.
I went out with Willard Burns and his father and some other guy. And they had shotguns, and I had a .22. And they were looking for birds, these little pheasants. And so we were walking, and south of Boise, sagebrush desert. Nothing but sagebrush. And sagebrush is about that tall. 2.5, 3 feet tall. And the ground is hard packed, and the sage smells so good. And there's just these little birds, and it's just the smell is so great, and rabbits. But as far as you can see, sagebrush, flat, high desert, I think it's called. So we were walking along, and we came to this place where you couldn't see it from far away, but I noticed we started going down. And the sagebrush got bigger. So we're going down, and the sagebrush is getting bigger, and we're going down, and it's almost dark. The sagebrush is like 12 feet tall. And all of a sudden, whoa! This rabbit, the size of a horse, leaps out, this jackrabbit. And then the ground went up, the sagebrush got smaller, and we were on the other side of that.
And I see you in the branches that blow. The breeze, I'll see you in the old tree.